All right. So I got a bit of editing to do today, so I thought, hey, might as well just live stream it. So this is gonna be just editing some New Balance shoes. I shot last night, so we're just gonna strip out the background of these and probably work on a little bit of the lighting to match the style that I've been going for this one client. The client's not New Balance, but it is a local San Diego clothing store that sells a lot of New Balance shoes, and they like to have their own custom um, photos to match the rest of the site because they don't necessarily just sell New Balance shoes, so they try to keep all their shoes consistent throughout their website and storefront. So we're gonna get into it. So I've already done a little bit while I was shooting. Already have done a little bit of editing when it comes to the basic editing, so like the exposure, contrast, color correction, stuff like that. I like to do that on the shoot using Capture One. So today we're going to focus on Photoshop. So primarily what we're going to be doing is stripping out the white background to make sure it's pure white background, and then we're going to leave a little bit of the shadow from the shoe. So yeah, that's the game plan. So first off, I'm gonna double check. I always like to go back into RAW, so I export these as TIFFs, and that typically that won't save the RAW edits I've previously done. There's probably a workaround around that, but currently it's gonna be all set to 0. But I've already done some edits, so yeah, we're gonna just go into the RAW. So one by one. All right. You know what's not showing up? Huh, it's interesting. So I should have a keyboard layout for you guys, and it does not seem like it's appearing. See if that will... Oh, you know what? I have to turn that on for you. I think it's called... What are you called? Huh. Give me 1 second and let me try to find, because I like to show a little bit of the there should be like a layout for the keyboard, so give me 1 second. Not entirely sure where that program went. Sorry guys, I was diving into some files. I didn't know if I was going to come across anything with an NDA, so I didn't want to get in trouble. So yeah, I'm not sure what happened to that little program I have that allows you guys to see what oh wait, is that, will you allow me to load? No, your exe, you're just gonna have me repair. You won't open. Not sure what's going on with that. Anyways, maybe next time. That's a bummer. Anyways, so yeah, let's go back into this. So I'm just going to check my exposures, making sure that nothing is pure white, because we're gonna add in pure white, and if I make something pure white, then we're gonna lose probably this edge of the shoe, and I don't want that. All right, so let's get into it. You know, I like, again, I already pre-edited this, and so I'm looking, I already like how this looks, so I'm just gonna open it up. I'm gonna open this up into a smart object. Hold on, shift and open. Load into Photoshop. Okay, I'm gonna clean this all up. Actually, let's rearrange this. I've been working on a lot of different stuff, so Photoshop is a little messy right now. So I'm just gonna go arrange that. Reset essentials. There we go. Start from fresh. And then there we go. That's how I like it. Okay. So off the bat, actually, you know what? I'm going to create an action just to keep myself organized. I like I haven't really done this, and I should be doing this, where I have an action that just pretty much creates folders for my edits, just to make it a little more clean. So I'm just gonna do that really quick. So I'm just going to make a new action. Keep that default. We'll make this folders, because there's going to be multiple. I'm gonna record that, and so now it's recording my my actions right now, and then I'm just going to essentially the next image. When I do this, I'll just hit play, and it will automatically put organize everything for me. So first off, I'm going to make this into a group. So the base image will be in its own folder, and we'll call that I don't know, image 1. I'll probably change that at some point. And then I'm going to make that, let's make that red. And then I'm going to make a new group. We'll call that, I'm thinking my order of operations. Usually I typically will do a Liquify tool, so I will do image mod. So that will be like stretching and positioning. So normally once I get, I'll duplicate this image and then just kind of work the image to the position that I want. So that will be that. And we will, this is in that folder. I don't want that in that folder, but I want that right there. So we'll make that orange. All right, and then the next one would be, so I'm gonna make a new folder. Next one will probably be, I do the Liquify, and then I'll do cutout. So that will be pen tool. And then we'll make that yellow. and then make a new grouping. We'll make that dust. So cleaning up dust. And then we'll make that green. Oh, and I need a background image, which will probably be right above image mod. So then I'll make a new folder right here. Make that blue. You know, cutout, I'm going to swap that over to violet. I don't like the that there's so much warmth going on there. Just keeps me a little bit more organized. Okay, and then I think I'll do I need to do adjustment layers. And then we'll do, I guess I'll do a yellow right there. Okay. I think I'm going to use this method for now on to keep myself organized. See how that goes. Probably not, but it's worth a try. So I'm just going to stop my actions. And that should, then once I open up an image and then push play on that, it should bring all those folders in, keep it organized. See if it works. Anyways, let's get into it. So we have our image one, and this, you know, I don't necessarily need to do like a Liquify tool or stretching and modifying it. It's pretty much there. Backgrounds, we're not there yet, but we're going to start on our cutout. So what I'm going to do, I like to copy merge and make sure I'm duplicating the original image. And I'm going to go into the cutout folder, and then I'm going to paste. And so now we're going to be working with the same image, but we're just going to use the pen tool and cut the background out. At the same time, I'm going to turn off image one because I do not want to see that once I do have the cutout. So going to start off with the pen tool and just cut all the way around it. So this is what you all are waiting for, to see the magic of the pen tool, the magical pen tool. I'm actually going to change the color of the pen tool line, which would be, yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So path tool, it's selected green. I'm actually going to go with, let's go magenta. So that way, because it's green on green, it's going to be hard to see the line. So I'm just going to make it easier on myself. Bring that down. So we're just going to go all the way around the shoes. So how's everybody's day? Hi, Sunny. Doing good. Doing good. How's your day? I'm just sitting here working. I am editing a photo in Photoshop, yeah. No, this is for work. This is a New Balance shoe for a client in San Diego that I'm what I'm doing is stripping out the background right now. So we're not doing too intense of like color editing and all that. Mostly it's more mechanical. So I'm just cutting out the background and filling it in with the background that my client wants. And so I'm just showing the process of, basic product photography editing. So majority of the editing will be with the pen tool. Some people find this completely boring, which I totally can see, but I find it the most powerful tool in Photoshop. But I do show some of my personal work editing wise. I've been pretty busy with client work, and I'm looking to do hopefully pretty soon some more personal shoots that I have planned, and then do some editing on here. But looking to live stream the shoots as well. But I am just waiting for a little like possibly a week of downtime to actually get that shoot going. Yeah, I've done a few where, so most of my work, my personal work, is paint trips. So I like to do paint trips over different objects, and those are always fun because I'll pretty much set you guys in front of the object, and just pretty much stream while I'm positioning the object and then getting ready to pour. And the pour really happens pretty quickly, but it's pretty satisfying. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Hopefully the next few weeks. I do have to, so a lot of the objects I've been doing have been 3D printed, so I just have to have a little time of getting that taken care of. Yeah, if you go over to my website, you can see some of them, and I think I have that linked into my description on my profile. Or if you just go to jsuttonphoto.com, and under prints, you can see I have those available, but you can see those over there. They're probably the best one. Or if you go to my Instagram too, jsuttonphoto. And I think we're about probably halfway through this path that I'm creating with the pen tool. Let's see. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's the stuff that I want to keep live streaming, but client work keeps getting in the way. So hopefully in the future, I can dedicate myself a little bit more to those fun projects. But in the meantime, you guys get to watch some of my day-to-day, especially the editing stuff. It's a lot easier to stream the editing. Still working out some of the logistics of the live streaming of shoots, and sometimes like some of the shoots I'm doing have non-disclosure agreements, so I can't really show you guys. So there's always some downtime where I'm like, I got nothing to show you. But you know, looking to bring you guys along. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit difficult, because now we're starting to cut out white against white. So sometimes you can completely lose the edge when you're just looking at the line, because it just blends in together. There's some tricks. Maybe one day I'll go into some of the tricks of, for some new people who are looking into doing essentially e-commerce sort of photo shoots and using the pen tool, and they're having to shoot let's say clear objects or white against white objects, but I've gotten pretty good at determining where the line should be. And this is going relatively quickly. I remember when I first started off with this client, you know, these were like the first, like I guess, shoes I was photographing, and I spent a lot more time on the details of the pen tool. It took a lot longer, but you know, I realized like what parts are important, what's not, how to really work the shoe. What version of Photoshop are you using? I guess the current one. I use Photoshop Creative Cloud, so it's always updating to the current one. I think it's I don't know. Let me look. I think that would be in version history. Oh no. Huh. It's up to date. Version 22.3. But I mean, there really hasn't been so much different. Like the basic Photoshop, it has pretty much been the same since, like, I don't know, CS, the last CS. The newest editions, like they add new features here and there, and fix some bugs. But overall, if you're doing the basic workings of Photoshop, it's still the same. Yeah, when it comes, I do use primarily Photoshop when it comes to editing product photography. But when it comes to like portraits, like I guess wedding photography, because I do I do wedding photography occasionally. That will mostly be in Lightroom, but all my basic editing is done in on the shoot, and I use Capture One for that. So it's a tethering program, and then so that's all the basic editing, and then that gets all those images get selected, and then I bring those over into Photoshop and then do the retouching. But yeah, most of my work is in Photoshop. I have been wanting to try out some of the alternative ones, and I might do that and do some like live stream with that to see the differences. But I've also been interested in doing getting a virtual machine with, I think, one of the older Macintosh OSs, and trying out Photoshop 1, the original Photoshop, and see what I can do with that. It's kind of a challenge. So maybe I'll do that one day. But I know I'm not going to be able to do like high res images. It's going to be very, very, very low res images that Photoshop 1 can handle. Okay, so just finished up my path tool, or sorry, the path with the pen tool. Now I'm going to make my selection. And I always like to do 0.3 pixels. It gives a little bit of feather on the edge but keeps it sharp. If you keep the feather radius to 0, it's going to look unnaturally sharp on that edge, and it's not going to blend well, because optically when you're looking through the lens, there is always somewhat of a feather. Nothing in real life is 0 pixels like that. So you just add a little bit of feather and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to push OK on that, and then that selects the entire shoe. And now I'm going to add a layer mask to that, and then the shoes are cut out, and I'm going to add in my background folder, I'm going to go pure white. Actually, did my client want pure white on that? Let me double check on the past work. Give me 1 second. I'm going to download the images from Dropbox really quick. Okay, yep, pure white. Okay, but I am going to bring in another one for the crop. Where did I put that? Sorry, I'm downloading some images, so that way I'm going to bring in old images to make sure that the crop ratio is the same, so you guys get to see how that works. I'm just going to actually paste it in here. That, bring that over here. Okay, so now I have a new folder with those original images, and I'm just going to open this with Photoshop. So though I'm going to bring that over, select that entire thing, copy, and we're just going to bring this on the very top, because once I'm done with the crop ratio, I am just going to delete it. Okay, lower the opacity of that image and then line it up with the shoes. And it doesn't have to be perfect, like, because the shoes are different shapes, we just have to pretty much get it like 90% there. Okay, that looks good for me. And then I'm going to use the crop tool and then just line it up with the original image, or the other image. Looks good. And then that image I brought in, we're just gonna throw that in the trash. And now I'm going to fill in that background with white. Okay. And then, so now I need to bring in the shadow underneath. And I think I'm actually going to bring this up a little bit more. Whoops. Let's do right there. And this client likes a lot of extra space around it. Typically, I always try to go in a little bit tighter, so that way there's a lot more information with the shoes. But for his website, he likes to have a lot of empty space in there, a lot of negative space. So we're gonna keep it that way. That's the way he likes it. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so I am going to actually duplicate the cutout layer, and then the layer underneath. I'm actually let's bring the copy one underneath. All right, and then I'm going to delete layer mask. So it's going to bring back that original image. But now we're just going to cut out for the shadows. And the reason why I like to cut out from the original shadows as opposed to adding in a shadow is because of this natural reflection of the shoe. So we're getting some of that green, we're getting some of that yellow. So when we do have a shadow, it looks more natural. And this is relatively easy. So I just like to pretty much, you know what, that's a little bit too much. We're gonna go with the darker shadow. So I'm just gonna go around here. Actually, let me double check. Yeah, okay. We're gonna go with the darkest shadow right there. Just trying to make sure it's consistent with the past shoots. And not into this song. There we go. Yeah, he's this is like his main focus is sells a lot of rare shoes, a lot of popular like New Balances, and so he gets a lot of like shoes that are a little more collectible. And they're always fun to shoot because they always come out just like, yeah, I don't have to do too much to them to make them look good. And then there's always some weird ones where like I just don't understand why somebody would want to collect shoes. I'm not a sneaker guy. I don't understand it, but you know, there's a lot of stuff I do that people don't understand. So who am I to judge? You a good, yeah. I mean, a good pair of shoes, yeah, totally. Like, I'm the type of person that likes to wear them. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, I like to wear shoes. I don't like to collect shoes. I have a couple friends who collect shoes, and it's not for me. Like, I appreciate them. I just can't get away from my black Vans. All right, and then we're just gonna go around this dark area, and we're just gonna kind of fake it till it works. Because I don't necessarily want to take this entire shadow right here, but we can also create our own line there. Okay. Now all we have to do is just do this next one. There's shoes. Yeah. I see tons of people who are afraid to get their shoes dirty. And we're just gonna cut all of that out. And because it's the layer below, all this stuff's not gonna be above our layer. So we don't have to worry about all this cut out. So gonna make that selection. And we're gonna layer mask that off. And then we can see that it's relatively a sharp edge. That's fine, because I like to go in here and just kind of blend it in, because we have a completely different this should be a lot more blend in at the edge than once it gets closer. Once it gets closer, it should be a sharper shadow. So I like to manually go in there and clean that all up. So from right here, I'm just going to use a flow of 6, and then I'm just going to somewhat, I'm going to go smaller brush. Whoops. Redo. Paint in white. There. Excuse me. If I selected the layer mask, there we go. Actually, I'm gonna go flow of 100 to just clean up this line a little bit. We're just gonna soften this area. see. And then I'm actually just gonna blur the whole thing. So I'm actually going to select the layer mask, and I'm just gonna Gaussian blur it just a tiny bit. Come on, load. There we go. I don't want to do too much. I'm just really trying to affect that area. So if I click back, okay, so it's starting to blur. And I'm actually going to go back into here and then feather in black because I want to have this somewhat of a gradient. So I'm just going to feather in some of that area because I think it's just too dark on that edge. It doesn't blend well with the pure white background. So I'm just going to blend that. And then the entire thing gets down. I want to say go 68 opacity. I think that's where I normally have it. And again, probably just a little more feather. And I'm not liking the angle or the shape, so I'm actually going to bring in some of that. Let's actually bring in a tiny bit more. Oops, what am I doing? There we go. Fingers lost where the keys were. Okay. I'm okay with that. Shadow. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect. I think I'm gonna add in a little bit of a highlight onto the back. So I'm gonna go to adjustment layers and I'm going to do a curve. Bring up that highlights a little bit. Cool. And then going to the layer mask for the curve, paint in black. It brings it back to the original. Take my paintbrush, make sure white selected. Then I'm just going to paint in onto the back. And now I can just dial that in a little bit more. And then I'm just going to do the top a little bit more too, bring the brightness up. See if I like that. There we go. And then I'm going to just emphasize the highlights. In fact, I'm actually going to do a soft light on that. Flow of 12. Of course, I have black selected. It's not what I want. There we go. I like to emphasize a little bit of the highlights. And I might actually go here, just a little bit on that edge, and I think I might just brighten this area up right here. And I like to do the edge of the cloth on top. It just kind of gives it a little more drama, small little details. And then I feel like it's getting lost right here, so I'm just gonna bring in that highlight a little bit more. I'm gonna go back. I like that to be dark, but I think the white right here is getting a little bit lost. It's like the shadow, I don't want it there. Okay, I think it's that simple. I think I'm good, but before I move on, I'm actually gonna drag the dust folder up, keep myself organized, and I'm gonna go in there and check for dust. I like to do dust once I've gotten the lighting and all the little overall details correct, because then it starts to become a little more believable once I do some corrections. So it kind of like merges together once I start fixing stuff. So I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm just going to use Spot Healing Brush tool. I didn't see too much that needs to be fixed, but some dust here and there needs to be cleaned up. So we're just going to clean that up. You know, these are fine little details that no one's really going to see, but you know, I'm going to make sure my client is happy with the images. Actually might go in there with a little more contrast after this. Maybe I want to darken this. I feel like it's a little too hazy. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll just do that. Take away from that contrast lightning. Bring in those dark blues a little bit more. I'll get a flow of 100. There we go. Yeah, I still might go in here with a little bit more contrast. I want to make this just a tiny bit darker right here too. Okay. But I'm gonna finish up the dust removal. So we're just gonna go in here and clean it all up. Little imperfections from manufacturers. There's always some like excess glue on shoes around this area. Oh, interesting. A little bit of adhesive came out of the holes. So we're just gonna clean those up. And we got some stuff around these holes. It's like once you get into like very close into different products, you always see the fine little details that the manufacturer just kind of look past. But, you know, no one's really looking at this stuff this closely. But when I turn over high res images to my client, they know. They like to look at it and like, why isn't this perfect? Well, I didn't make the product. Ooh, that's a line right here. Got to be careful because there's actually a line right here, but I know Photoshop's going to just merge that together. So actually I might leave that how it is. I don't want to lose that line. Sorry, email real quick. All right. Cool. Now that I'm looking at it again, I might actually just, I want to change the contrast a little bit. I'm going to bring the brightness up a little bit, and then I'm just going to emphasize the shadows a tiny bit more. Yeah, this make it pop, it makes it pop a little bit more. You know, those colors kind of come out a tiny bit more too. And it looks a little more natural because I think this dullness of white against pure white just kind of makes it seem a little more dull. If I bring up those highlights a tiny bit more, just makes it look a little more natural in the space it's in. But I also want to make sure I'm not clipping any of that yellow. Okay. I might go just a tad with the layer mask and just bring this down a little bit more on this edge. There we go. There we go. I think that looks pretty good for the first image. All right, so I'm gonna save this. Make sure save in the right place. It's on my new hard drive. There it is. All right. Let's open the next one. Okay, so this one, I think I needed a plate, so you guys will get to see that. I'm actually going to open these up together. So I'm going to go, so I'm in Bridge right now, go up to Tools, Photoshop, and load files into Photoshop layers. So that will open up the images together. And I'm gonna play that new action I created and see how that goes. Okay, because I have two images, I just have to bring that down here. Okay, so this is for highlight. Top. Okay, so this one's the original image. This is going to be for a, I'm going to do this in image mod because I'm going to have to cut out a little bit of this top and blend it in with below, because I just felt like I'm blowing out the shoestrings. I think they were just blown out a little bit, so I shot one where it was a little more darker, so that way I can blend it in into the original image. First, I'm going to line them up first. So we're going to get in there, make sure it's perfect. I think right about there is good. So now they're lined up. Okay, and then I'm not going to focus on this one. I'm just going to focus on the original. Actually, I'm going to bring this up to cutout, because that will be cut out, and then I'm going to duplicate this one. bring that up to cutout, and then we're going to use the pen tool on this. Yeah, I took these shots. Yeah, I shot these last night. Quick shoot. I think it only took me about an hour to shoot. And again, we're using the pen tool, cutting out the image from the background. Oh, thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you can join me later on for other sessions and photo shoots and all that fun stuff. It's a pleasure having you stick around. You have a good night. Thanks. This is always the hard part when the material is blending in with the shadow, because then I'm just kind of like guessing. All right, past the tough stuff. All right, moving on. So there's going to be a little bit of a trick to get that top layer perfect, because we have the additional layer with the plate is what it's called, where I'm going to fix the highlight area on the laces. So we don't have to cut out that image because it's lined up. We're just going to duplicate the layer mask. It should be the same. All right. Really like this texture of the fabric. This close up. Let's see, I might go back. There we go. There's that little hump here. I'm gonna go. There we go. There we go. All right, and then this is where it's gonna get a little difficult because the laces did get blown out originally, so I'm gonna have to, actually I'm going to turn on that other shot that I did that should be lined up. Yeah, it should be, now that I'm looking at it. I think it needs to be shifted there. There we go. Okay, so we're going to keep that on, and then we're going to now keep on with the path. There we go. Make that 100%. There we go. Now I can see. We're pretty much at the end of this path. All right. All right, so we have the entire shoe now has a vector path around it. I'm going to make a selection, make sure that's set to 0.3, push OK, and it's going to make my selection. And I'm going to turn off that top layer, and because I want to make sure that we're only applying the layer mask to the original image. Well, the copied original image, because there's two images in this. I'm actually going to go down to the image 1 and turn off the image that we brought in, and then I'm just going to work on the copy. So from here, I'm just going to select layer mask, and that selects that out. Now I'm going to turn, because I want to, let's put in our background first. I'm actually going to bring in another image to make sure our crop is perfect. And I'm just going to copy this over, copy. And we're going to copy it to the very top, or paste in the very top. I'm going to zoom out, and I'm just going to line up the shoes. And this will give us the same crop ratio. Bring that up. There we go. That looks pretty close. And then we're just going to bring the crop lines to match the original, or the other shoe. Perfect. I'm going to make that 100% again. I'm just going to double check that this is pure white. FFFF, yep, pure white. Cool. And I'm going to go to background, and I'm going to make a new layer and paste in white. I just feel like that's still sitting pretty low. It might just be the shoe shape that's just making it feel too low. I do like to have a little bit more room on top. That's how we've been working it with this client. But I think I'm just going to use just gonna bring these both up. Just bring that up. Balance it out. That looks good. Okay. So now I'm gonna focus on, you know what? So I did make that new layer. Alright, I brought in that other shot for plate to deal with that highlight. But now that I'm looking at it, it's not really that blown out. It was just blending in with the past background, which was not pure white. So I think we're good. And now we're gonna bring in that shadow. So I'm actually gonna duplicate this layer, and then we're gonna go shadow on this. Boom. And I'm actually going to disable layer mask. Actually, I'm gonna delete layer mask because we're gonna apply a new one. I thought I was going to teach you guys a little bit about plating, but looks like it's not necessary on this one. I think the other image is actually a little bit too dark for what I'm looking for. Okay, so where do I want to start? Let's start off with the hard stuff in the back, and then we'll work our way to this area. So we're just going to loop around here, and then we're going to feather it with our brush tool. So yay. Okay, so for the back, we do have a little bit of gradient, so I'm actually going to go right here, and I'm going to bring it in a little bit. I want to line it up with this dark area. And we can be a little more loose with this because we are going to blur it out to give a natural, like, give it a little bit of a natural gradient, which shadows have. But what I'm trying to do is get rid of all of this excess. It's not necessary. But without it, then we don't have that realism of a shadow. So yeah, this one I'm just gonna go a little bit more loose with. Okay, and then just kind of make this area. We're gonna blend this in a little bit, so I'm not too worried about this area. So now I'm just gonna go all the way over here, connect path, make selection, push OK, and now we're going to apply that. Okay, and see how it's a little bit too sharp. Now we're gonna work in especially in the front and back, where we naturally have a softer shadow, not as sharp. We're gonna work these in. So I'm actually going to start off with lowering the opacity. I think we used 68 last time, so we want to match that. So overall, we're gonna bring down that shadow. And now I'm going to use the brush tool with black, and I'm just going to go with flow of 12 for right now, and I'm just going to use a bigger brush, and we're only applying it to the layer with a shadow, so we're not affecting any of the other layers. So I'm just going to soften this area a tiny bit more, and again, we're going to blur this and adjust a little bit. Okay, so now I'm actually going to go into here. So hit Alt or Option and then click on the layer mask to just pull up the layer. And I'm going to blur, Gaussian blur, around 4.6. My computer would want to show it. There we go. Okay, so if we go back here, it's got a I wanted just a natural little softness to the shadow, but we're not gonna um I didn't want it where it was just completely blurred out. So now we can actually go do the same thing, but I'm actually going to use the blur tool. We're going to blur out the front and back a little bit more, and we'll work it from the edge in a little bit more. So I really want that tip to be like really blurry, because naturally that's what it would be. So there we go. So now we've got a natural gradient, and we've got natural little sharpness in the middle, and then a lot more towards the ends. Because as you lift up, the object's getting further away from the surface, so you're gonna have a less sharp shadow. Okay, so now let's look at overall brightness of the shoe. I think it's a little bit too dim for it being pure white shoe. It's looking a little gray. So we're gonna up the contrast a tiny bit, the brightness and the contrast. And first off, let's actually go in there and clean up some dust. I'm trying to get myself into order because I have these new, I set up these new folders that I'm trying to stick to. So normally I just like, oh, I feel like doing this right now. So I'm trying to keep it organized now. I'm not I haven't been a very organized editor, but I'm trying to be a little more organized for y'all. Y'all. I don't ever say y'all. It's a weird thing for me to say. Anyways, now we're just cleaning up with the spot healing brush tool. We're looking for any of the manufacturer's mistakes, any extra dust, like right here. That's kind of a mistake on manufacturer. So we're losing some of that texture. So I'm actually going to use the clone stamp tool, and I'm going to select from over here, and we're just going to bring some of that texture back over. There we go. No one will know. So I'm just gonna kind of skim through it, check to see if there's any dust. I don't like to like sit and focus on like one little area, make it all pristine. I feel like that becomes a little more apparent. So if you're like highly focused on one area but loose with the rest, then it looks like that one particular area doesn't really match with the rest of it, so it becomes too apparent that it's been edited. So I always like to just go back and forth, do some sweeps of different areas, come back to areas that I've already done. It usually balances itself out. Like that's the whole thing about most editing. It's like it's really about balance, making sure that what you're looking at is working with the rest. There's always glue. I swear, there's always glue marks on these edges. I've never come across a shoe that didn't have that. And I'm wondering, like, how hard is it to just not have overspill of glue in these factories? I understand, like, there's going to be a few, but it's like on every single one of them. I would think, you know, it's 2021, it'd be addressed by now, but I guess not. Okay, That's looking pretty good. A couple spots here and there. But overall, you're never going to look this closely. You're always going to look at like this. So all those tiny little details, yeah, you're not going to see them. Okay, so let's now look at lighting. Let's make this little pop a little bit more. So actually needs to go down below. Keep myself organized. There we go. All right, layer adjustments. And I'm going to delete this top layer. We're just going to go into curves, and I'm going to brighten the whole thing up. And I'm going to bring down those shadows just a tiny bit. I wanted to have a little more punch to it, so that looks pretty good. Yeah. And now I think I'm gonna go with soft light brush. So make that layer to soft light. And we're going to apply white, and I'm just going to bring this down to like 6 or 5. We're going to just toy with this a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Oops. Emphasize the N a little bit more with the highlights. So if we turn that on and off, you can see that those highlights are just now a little more punchy. And you know, even though I took another shot where the laces weren't blown out, and I was trying to get those a little bit darker, and then I just chose not to, I'm actually gonna bring those up a tiny bit more. I'm just gonna add in a little more highlight, because naturally there's light above. And actually, I lied. I'm actually going to do that on a separate layer. There's going to be a new trick I'm going to show you. Okay, so I made a new layer, making that soft light, and I'm going to do that same thing again. But remember, I was having issues before that. I was like, okay, well, I want to make sure the blue's somewhat dark. So I just applied that white. I'm going to double click on that layer, and I'm going to go to the underlying layer right here, and I'm just going to hold down Alt or Option, and I'm going to click this. Whoops, actually I'm going to bring it to the darkness. So I'm going to click right here. I'm bring that out, and now if you see, it's only applying that effect, the soft light, to the brighter area. So anything that was dark underneath is now not being applied with the that soft light. In fact, I'm probably going to drag this clip it a tiny bit. Okay, let's see that. Okay, just a little bit too bright now, so now I'm just going to bring that down with the opacity. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Now I'm just going to save it. Oh, this is untitled. Give me a second. Let me get the right naming SKU for that. Okay, file. Let's see that. Paste that over here. Save. Please save. There we go. The magic words, please. Okay. everybody on Facebook, sorry that's commenting. Sorry, I was not paying attention to those comments. They were not showing up on Restream for some reason. So, Gilbert asked me to show me the AMC. Here's the AMC. There you go. We're currently at 975, Gilbert. Okay, so sorry, let me get back to you. Okay, Mike, as a dad, I'm in love with this. Are you a dad? I didn't know you had a kid. I think you're trolling me here. Diego, how do you color coordinate your layer panels? Oh, okay. So you are trying to look for, okay, I'm actually going to go into that in just a few seconds. So this one's done, so I'm going to close this one out, and we're done with that. We're done with that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Bridge, and we're going to open up this one. Oh, we're going to have to liquify this, aren't we? Okay, whatever. Okay, I'm going to open this up. And make sure I'm actually going to just brighten this up a little bit. There we go. And then I'm opening this up as a smart object. Hold down Shift and hit open. Okay. So Diego was asking, how do I color coordinate my layer panel? Okay, so I actually just in the very beginning of this live stream, I actually set up an action for me to use consistently, which I can share with you. I'll actually send that to you once I figure out how to export that and share that with you. But essentially, what I do is I make a new folder and I name that. Let's just say retouch. And then I right click on that folder, and then down below, we have options for different colors, and that will just highlight as a different color. So you can customize what color you want. But I do have an action for that now. So I actually I'll share that with you. I'll maybe make a link to that also on a couple different videos. But yeah, so right now I have a it's called retouching folders, and I push play. And so then it generates those folders for me and already in pre-colors them. So this is essentially trying to keep myself organized consistently, so that way later on it's all organized. That's been one of my biggest hurdles when I'm editing. I like to be a little more flowy, but I know to keep myself organized and know where folders are, might as well just keep them in the groupings. All right, so I am actually going to get some more water for just a split second, so I will be right back. So hold tight. All right, I'm back. All right, so getting back into it, we have 2 more images to finish up. So this one's essentially the same thing as I did previously, but the other side. So let's do it. First off, because I'm not gonna mess around with any of the bottom layer, or you know what? I'm actually going to liquify because I want to bring down those laces. So I'm gonna copy that image, the original image, and then we're gonna drag that up to image mod. And I'm actually gonna rasterize this. Had some issues with the current Photoshop where if it's a smart object and I've been using a Liquify tool in a mask, it's giving me some issues. So if I'm liquifying, I rasterize it. So now I'm gonna go to Liquify tool. Just gonna push down those laces, clean them up a little bit more. I don't want to push down that whole thing. All right, that just cleaned it up a little bit. So if we just pushed it down, clean them up a tiny bit, push OK. All right, now I'm gonna copy merge, and then I'm going to cut out down below, and I'm gonna paste it in the cutout folder, and I'm gonna turn off the Liquify and the original image. And then now we're ready to use the pen tool. Yay. Yay, yay, yay. All right. Fix my camera there. All right. Emails. Whoops. Okay, so this is a little more important because it is the logo. I always like to make sure it's perfect. and with the pen tool, like this little edge right here, where there's a lot, like quite a bit of texture, it's always kind of a little difficult to figure out like how to manage it without losing that texture on the product. So it's a lot of different like curves you gotta create. Some people like to just do smooth curves, and it's not always perfect. What other tools do you use for selecting other than pen tool? Oof. The correct answer is always the pen tool, 100%. Huge advocate for it, even though it's probably going to give me carpal tunnel one day. But there are other methods, but they all have issues when it comes to selection tools. You know, it really depends. Like, the pen tool works for every product or every situation. That's the thing. Like, it works for everything. It just takes a lot more time. Now, the automated systems, like, it's very difficult to say. It really depends on like the situation. So if I'm trying to cut out something that is like, let's say a black sweater against a hey Jackie. So if I'm shooting a black sweater against a white background, it's a lot easier to use the automated selection tools. But and also there's issues with that too. But if you are shooting a white sweater against a white background, it's almost impossible to select that object. So you would have to use the pen tool, because no selection tools would really work out perfectly, because what the automated tools are looking for are differences of contrast. So because if it's the same sort of look, it's just gonna assume it's the background, or the background's the object. So it's pretty difficult. There are different methods with using the channels. So if, let's say, it's a blue sweater against the white background, you can utilize the channels to affect the color channels and then you use a like the threshold adjustment layer to then essentially make a layer mask for you, and then you copy that and then apply that to the layer mask of that image. And there's a method of doing that. But the problem, again, there's problems with all the rest of the selection tools, and it really comes down to the pixel. With the pen tool, you get smoother lines, but with all the other automated selection tools and all the other methods, you're gonna have jaggedy edges if you zoom in closer. So if you need detail, like if your client is looking for the detail, and they're gonna be looking up close, don't use anything but the pen tool. I know it's the answer nobody wants to hear. They want to know the secrets to selecting easily, but realistically, this is it. There's AI programs out there that try to do it, and all of them, I always find a situation where like it just it never works. So it's just better overall to just take the time and cut it out manually. Because I've literally like tried different methods of cutting out objects and just spent the exact same amount of time trying to figure that out as much as I did with the pen tool. Like I just love the pen tool. I hate it. I hate it. I wish there was an automated system, but I love the result. But I will have to say, I think one of the newest selection tools, Diego, if you're still listening, you know, if the one that does the best out of, let's say, the selection tools right up here, object selection tool, pretty good. If you're doing some like quick selections, like it. Whoops, I'm not trying to apply that right now. Let's go back to the pen. And that's what I have my students start off on is I have them explore those tools, and so that way they can see the struggle and understand more, because I'm trying to teach them more about the layers than the selection tools. All right, let's get into the hard part. Well, actually, this one's not too bad. The other one, the laces were a bit overexposed or matching the background, so I couldn't really identify where their edge was. But this one's relatively apparent. Do a lot of freehand masking in Photoshop with the brush tool. I would Diego, seriously, I would suggest the pen tool, especially with jewelry. The brush tool seems like it works out pretty well, but you have issues with, let's say your brush has a bit of a feather, you're not going to get a sharp edge. But if you are using a sharp edged brush, then you're digging in with the circle. So pen tool allows you to make just these nice curves and follow that line, and you don't have to worry about that feather tool. It seemed like I don't know how much experience you've had with the pen tool, but I would seriously suggest just like sitting down and just working through it, and learn to love it, especially with jewelry. Pen tool is the best way to go, because you're gonna be able to control those lines a lot easier. It's not the answer everybody wants to hear, but just currently that's how it is. Diego, if you'd like to send me one of your, like, let's say edited PSD or TIFF of some of your work, I'd like to see like how you're working with that. Maybe I can help give suggestions on what to work on, or maybe something that you might be missing that would make editing a lot easier or consistent or whatever. Okay, pen tool. Yeah. I mean, essentially, this is all I'm doing is pen tool. I've been using pen tool for years, but it's one of those things you gotta practice in order for it to make it go quick. It took me a while. Like when I first started using the pen tool, it was intimidating. It took me quite a bit of time, but you know, as I used it more and more and more, it just became more fluid, and you get quicker at it. So my suggestion, I mean, because this is also your profession as well, pen tool. really work with the pen tool. I can't believe you've been using the brush tool for that. Good. I mean, good on you for like sticking with that. I mean, that you can have some great results with the brush tool, but whew, that's a lot of dedication. Because I'm not gonna get into how difficult that could be. All right, so I made my selection. 0.3. Again, we don't want to have a 0 edge because that's unnatural. Real life, we're gonna always have a little bit of a blur on the edge, so gonna give that 0.3. Just makes it a little more natural. Make that mask, and we're gonna duplicate that layer, bring that copy below, and we're gonna delete layer mask, because we want to now pen tool our shadow. Diego, yeah, of course. Again, seriously, feel free to send me your work, and I'll look into it and give you some pointers. I mean, I've seen your work before. It's great. So I'm just kind of a little shocked that you've just been using the brush tool this entire time. That's great. Not making fun of you. I'm just I know the struggle. I know the difficulties. Okay, I'm gonna line it up with the dark area. All right. Diego, maybe after the pandemic, you can swing by the studio and maybe show you in person like how I do everything, and maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. I don't know. It's always good to have different perspectives of photography. I mean, not everybody does the same thing as everybody else. Like, I know tons of photographers who don't edit. All right, made that selection. Actually, I'm not too happy with that. I want to round this off a little bit more. Let's delete this one. Get out of here. Get out of here. And I just want to there we go. a little bit more rounded, like that. Make selection. All right, now we are going to mask this layer off, and now we have our shadow, and immediately I'm going to go to opacity and then bring that down to 68 like the other ones, and I'm going to now bring in one of the original images to line it all up. So open with Photoshop, copy paste, just gonna bring that on top so I can find that easily. Bring on top. There we go. Lower the opacity. Now I'm gonna line it up. Okay, there we go. Perfect. And now we're going to apply background so we can see what we're doing. All right. Okay, so that shadow is looking a little too sharp. That would be great. I could use some motivation to improve my work. Yeah, yeah, motivation is key. Like, let me tell you, it's very easy to get unmotivated especially when you're doing the same thing over and over again. Like if you're doing product photography with the same products, it gets a little mind numbing. Even like you got to mix it up sometimes. So hopefully I can be a little more motivation and change some stuff up. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna blur this off the bat. So we're gonna do, oh wait, I have the wrong layer selected. Okay, there we go. Selecting the layer mask. And now we're gonna Gaussian blur that, 4.6. Keep it consistent with everything else. Okay, and now that is slightly blurred, but I wanna blur out the edges. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm actually going to use the blur tool, and we're going to blur that tip a lot more than the rest, and then we're going to ease our way into the rest of it, and then same thing over here. Now this side wasn't as high, so we don't have to blur it out too much, but this is going to be right at the tip is going to be the highest point that the shoe is at, so we want to have the blurriest on the tip. So let's go back. There we go. Looks a little more natural. And now I'm going to fade from that tip inwards. So I have the layer mask selected. I have black selected for my brush, and I'm just going to ease it in, feather it. There we go. And then this one's going to be a little less dramatic. There we go. I like that. Okay, so now let's look at dust. Make a new layer in the dust folder. Okay, just going in there, fixing some stuff. Ooh, this one's gonna be a little difficult. Okay, so clone stamp tool. Select from that point. There we go. Okay. Clean up some of this glue. I'm gonna go back to clone stamp. I'm always like switching off between clones, all the different clone tools, or the clone stamp, the spot healing brush tool, and the spot, what's the other one? The healing brush tool. I don't just stick to one tool and just that's it. Like they all have different jobs. And I'm glad I spent a little more time on the logo because it has that nice little ridges right there. Like that. And the glue. Let's go clone. I'm gonna just clean this up real quick. Okay, I think that's cool. Now I'm just going to increase the exposure or the contrast a tiny bit more, bring up those highlights a tiny bit, and I'm gonna bring down those shadows. Just makes it punch. Looks good to me. And then I'm going to make a new layer and then soft light. And now I'm just going to go in with a flow of 6%, and I'm just going to work on the logo. I just want to bring out those highlights just to make that stand out a tiny bit more. Oops. And then I think I'm gonna bring out this highlight right here. Maybe a flow of 4. I think that was just a little too intense. Just go boop. There we go. And then same thing on the top, just a little bit more. And then, you know what? I'm gonna go back. Same trick I did last time. And then we're gonna double click on that layer. Actually, make that a soft light. Double click on this layer. Bring up the layer styles. And then I'm going to make it so it's not applying that the highlight to the shadow areas. So now I can just apply a little bit more. It's not applying to areas that I don't want. And I'm actually going to bring out the highlight on top. I really like to emphasize that area. So a little highlight on top. Yeah, just a tiny bit. It's nice. And then I think that yellow is looking a little dull in my opinion. The other side was like the other images, it was doing the opposite. I think now we just want to bring this all out. Oops, I am doing that on the wrong layer. Layer 5. There we go. I just want to bring out that yellow area just a tiny bit more. And I think I'm good with that. That looks pretty good. We're gonna just gonna group all of these together real quick and then turn on the original image. Yeah. So the difference we made. Yeah. Cool. Actually gonna go back and make sure that there we go. I want to have all those layers not in one group. Okay, just gonna save that. Computer's thinking. There we go. Okay. Okay, so now we just have this last one. I did shoot 2, and I shot 2 because of the laces. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Oh yeah, okay. So this image, I liked how the lace was being laid down right here, but it was covering the end. So I think I might completely cut this lace out and apply it to this one. No, I think I think that's an option I can do later on if my client has an issue with the end being covered. But I'm more thinking right now, like if this was an image alone with, you know, I've had many other shoes I've shot the exact same. So pretty much all the positioning is the exact same. So if he has an issue that the end is covered, then I can go in there and fix it. But I think at this point, because I think it's more important that we have more consistency of the positioning for the this shoe and past shoes, I think I'm going to keep it this way. Even though the end is covered for the New Balance logo, I always try not to do that, but I'm kind of like torn right now because the positioning is exactly the same, and usually this image is like the 4th image that you see, so you're gonna know it's a New Balance shoe. So I'm gonna let him make that decision, but first I'm just going to do the same thing. We're gonna cut this all out, cut the background out, do the edits. But if he does have an issue with it, I can cut out that lace right here, cut that out, and then apply it to this shoe over here. And then just position that lace somewhere else, so that way the end isn't showing. So that won't be that difficult, but I'm more focused right now on consistency. So I'm just going to rock it this way, and if he has an issue, I can always go back. I don't have to reshoot it. So I already shot a frame with that in mind. So now I'm just going to, I'm just going to open these two because this one has the edits applied. I'm just going to sync it up really quick. Push OK. So we have the exact same consistency with the edits as well. Now I'm going to open up that as a smart object. And now I'm just going to apply that new action I did to set myself up with the folders. I think there is a couple different adjustments I want to make to that action. And I think once I'm done with that, I'll actually put this out for people to download if you want to use the action where it just lays out like where things should go. Okay, so same thing. Sorry, I'm just thinking if it needs any attention with the Liquify tool. And my client likes more of the natural. For this shot, he's cool with the natural look of laces, of pretty much how they lay. That's what this is kind of referring to. So I think I'm going to keep it this way. I'm not going to like make the laces perfect. And yeah, this is gonna be easy. Well, a little harder than the rest, but for what it is, it's relatively easy. I'm making it more difficult in my own brain. If that makes sense. Before I get started, I was like, oh, what edits do I need to do? Not that much. Sorry, give me a second. There we go. All right, so now I'm just going to duplicate this and bring that up to cutout because we're just going straight into cut. Okay, so wrong tool. There we go. I'm going to start off with it. I always try to start off at like a 90 degree, somewhere it's going to be like a sharp edge, because when you're working with a pen tool, when you get to the end of the line, you don't have an option to round that off really. It's a lot more difficult. So I always try to start off with an area where it's going to end at almost like a sharp edge. Little tip there. Or where it's going to be relatively flat. Nowhere that's going to be a little difficult and you got to round it off, feather it. This is the part where this is the point where my eyes start to like been focusing too much. Especially when it's not contrasty, like you're always searching for the differences. Where if I was shooting something like dark against white, it's pretty easy to see. But as you're just staring at it consistently, your eyes starts to blend those edges a little bit more. So you just gotta look away for a couple seconds and get back to it. So like I do the same thing with color correcting and everything like that, where you always gotta let your eyes take a break. Otherwise it's going to get like not painful. It doesn't hurt, but like it gets almost best. I guess the best word I could say is acclimated to it. So like your eyes will adjust color balance wise to that image. So you can't really see, like if you're working on a bunch of images and you're color correcting and making sure the color balance is perfect, like if they're all warm, your eyes will start to adjust to that, and so it's harder to color adjust for the entire thing of it. But for this, what I'm looking at is like, because I was just working on a bunch of white against a white background, my eyes want to kind of like balance that out and kind of just gloss over it. That's just naturally how our eyes are. For this one, we're probably going to be spending a little bit more time on the shadows because it's not all consistent. They're kind of everywhere, and then we have to edit that all in together to be consistent looking. So yeah, after cut this all out, that's what we'll be working on. So this one requires just a little bit more because there's just a little bit more going on here. Oh, this is where eye starts to lose it a little bit. There we go. All right, almost towards the end of this path. And then we got to work on shadows. And that is the end of that path. Took a little bit. Okay, again, make selection. Make sure it's 0.3 pixels because we want a little bit of feather. And then we're going to apply that layer mask. Make sure the layer underneath the original layer's turned off. Okay, and now I want to duplicate this layer, and then we're going to just delete the layer mask. We're going to bring back the original image, and then we are going to now select for our shadows. Now, this is a little bit more different than we did previously because we have this shoe that's more in the foreground that will have, and it's going up. So we want to make sure that we have somewhat of a gradient right in that middle before it goes back into the shadows for the other shoe. So let's get into it. Okay, so pen tool, same thing, just gonna make a crude little area, because again we're gonna be blurring that out too. And then I'm just gonna follow along. And I'm trying to select as much as possible. I think there's going to be a couple different selections. I'm actually going to bring that over here. I'm kind of making my own kind of lines right there. And I'm going to let it round off right there. And then I want to select that. Yeah. That'll be fine. And then we're going to end it right here. Cut into that. Okay. That was actually kind of the hard part. That actually went relatively easy. I've had it a lot harder before. Now we're just gonna follow this shadow, and at this point I'm actually gonna cut into this area to snag this shadow. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. That's how I want it. Thinking mechanically how that would actually work. So that works. I think that's going to be too sharp of an edge. There we go. Round it off a little bit. Bring that down. Yeah, there we go. You know what? Actually, let's bring this down below. There we go. And then follow that all the way over here. And then cut back into it and try to get rid of, ooh, this one's, we'll see how this works. Luckily, we're only applying this with a layer mask, so we can always just fix it. We're not actually deleting. Okay, boom, boom, boom. That's good. Okay, that's working out. Okay. Now we just follow it all the way to the beginning. I didn't think I was gonna manage to get all the shadow selections in one pass. I thought it was gonna be multiple, but we did it. Select that, make selection. Okay, and then overall, I'm going to blur this consistently as a 4.6. Boom. Okay, we're gonna go back into here. And I think I'm just gonna work on the crop really quick. So I'm gonna pull up an original one into Photoshop. Copy that into this one, go to the very top, boom. Change the song. I was getting too smooth jazzy, not into that. So a lot of these edits were just kind of rinse and repeat. Do the same thing, just different angles. Okay, turn that off and then go to the background, and we're gonna apply white background layer. Boom, so we can kind of see what we're doing. Okay, now we are going back to the layer mask for the shadows. So I'm actually gonna name that shadows. Okay, and then I'm gonna work on. I'm gonna lower this all to 68% the opacity, and now I'm going to just brush in some of the gradient. Actually, no. First, I'm gonna blur some of this manually. So like right here, this is, I know, is the edge of the shoe that needs to be a lot more blurrier. Same over here. Let's get that really blurred out. And then because it's the front, okay, so the front shoe in the foreground is raised up. I know as that shadow is going back, it needs to get a little more blurrier before it hits the other shoe, and then that other shoe shadow should be a lot sharper. So I'm gonna try to attempt that. Yeah, that works. Okay, and now I want to do a gradient. Flow 4, same thing in that area. We're just gonna paint in black on the layer mask and try to get rid of some of that area. Round it off. Because it's gonna be more intense towards that tip. That's what I'm trying to have that effect. Same over here. The same thing. All right. And I'm going to go back into the blur, and I'm going to blur out that edge a little bit more right here. Strength at 100. Okay. I'm gonna manually do it with the feather. There we go. I feel like it's still a little too rounded. Yeah, okay. I think the less shadow on that is going to be fine. In fact, I'll just go in here, just bring it back slightly. There we go. Because naturally, you wouldn't see too much of that. Actually, bring in a tiny bit more. Because you'll have more in the middle than on the outside. Okay. I think I'm good with that. Okay, so let's do our layer adjustment. So I'm going to increase the exposure slightly and then bring down the shadows a tiny bit. Just makes it punch a little bit more. And I'm going to make a soft light layer with a flow of 6. And I'm just going to brighten this area up on the other shoe. There's too much shadow casting from the foreground shoe, so I'm just gonna brighten that up a little bit, and I'm going to actually bring down the dark areas just a tiny bit. There we go. Apply it over here too. And I'm gonna make a new one. soft light, and I'm just gonna apply it up on top. Just emphasize some of the highlights. Bring out some of the colors, like the yellow right here. I feel like it's just getting too dark right here. Places seem a little dark too over here, so I'm just gonna brighten those up. All right, we're pretty much there. Actually, let me go back on that one. And I'm going to make a highlight on or brighten the highlights on the N. Emphasize the logo. Cool. Let's go. I skipped dusting, so we're gonna do that right now. Did not follow my own methodology with the folders. It's okay. Tool. There we go. Spot hidden brush. And I'm going to clean up that glue. I'll let that be. That's getting a little too crazy. Doesn't need to be pixel perfect. Because again, it's going to be relatively small. No one's ever going to see it that close up. But, you know, again, my client will originally, so I like to clean it up for a little bit more. Okay, so I think this is good. This was the last image I have to edit with you guys. Everything else I have to do today, I cannot show on live stream. But that's okay. Save. Save. There we go. All right, so this is the edits we did today. See if they'll all show. Why are you not showing? Anyways, the preview doesn't want to show. Not sure. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully you guys join me on the next one, and yeah. yeah, it's been a pleasure. Later.